moved. Amy seconded. For approval of the September minutes. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote. Amy Baker.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Alan Stark.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Tom Dials.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
And I vote yes. I don't vote. That's right. I'm getting that. Motion carries 8-0. Secretary's report.
Good evening, everybody. There has been an amended agenda submitted to you guys. So on your consent agenda, instead of 3 items, you will just have 1. Haynes Corner Farms and Kitty Hawks have been continued until the next meeting. On your regular agenda, we do have 4 items. One is a revisit of an existing SUP. Another is a subdivision that has an exception included. Then you have another special use permit for your first review. And then last is a rezoning. And then to end, you do have a variance request as part of your Board of Zoning Appeals. So you will have a BCA meeting as well today, too. With that, we will also have administrative business next.
Okay. All right. And administrative business.
All right. So the bylaws have now been officially submitted to you guys for review. In the packet, we included what the proposed language would be and a red line of the amendments to the existing bylaws. I will note that Resolution 2021-25, which did change some of the makeup of this board, is only referenced in the bylaws by that resolution number. So we are requesting, if you guys want to go ahead and approve it today, to also make a statement that we would also implement those items that are outlined in Resolution 2021-25 included in this bylaw amendment.
Okay, shouldn't we mention what those are?
Sure, I can. So the bigger ones talks about the makeup of the commission. It was a 9-member commission, and now we've moved to a 10-member commission, with the chair being a non-voting member. So Resolution 2021-25 just outlines that specific change, and then it does set the requirement that the chair is a non-voting member. That was also established in this resolution, as well as term limits. And then I think there's a few other just administrative items that were included. If you guys would like to look at this, I did bring a copy myself, and I can pass that around. But this was already approved by the Board of County Commissioners.
Right, and the term limits is 2 terms?
2 terms, yes.
Okay. All right, everybody understand that?
And a term is 3 years?
Yes.
Term is 3 years, but
2 term limits
2 terms, so 6
is the max.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions on any of that? Want to see it in writing?
Read it.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I just have one question, Mr. Chairman, on the election of officers. It's every other year is what it says in the bylaws. And I'm assuming that's because the commission wanted to have a 2-year term on the president. And this may not be a big deal, but it could be such a thing where the president was elected and then their term expires before the 3-year term expires before the 2. So I just didn't know if that was a consideration, and I know you can go through, there's rules and bylaws in there of what happens in that particular instance if the president's office is vacated, but it just seemed to me it was, maybe there was some
different timelines there.
Or maybe.
Yeah.
And it may not be a big deal.
I mean, I think that's a fair point. I would, from staff's perspective, what we would recommend when you guys are looking at appointing a new chair is making sure that we look at where everybody's term is at, so we aren't creating that scenario. And that would be something that you guys would consider when electing a chair. But I think you're right. There is built in here a process by which if a chair either has their term end or they choose to resign from the commission, that there would be another vote to elect a new chair.
I thought I saw something in there, if they retired, that we re-elected someone. I think the vice chair took over, and then we elected another vice chair. Wasn't that part of it?
I believe that's section 3.5.
Okay.
I thought that was in there, but there was a lot of reading, so
Right, yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. So, but I addressed it if they left the commission for some reason. It didn't address whether term expired, but I would imagine that would work the same way, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that you are correct. In the event that an office of chairperson becomes vacant, the vice chairperson shall succeed to that office for the unexpired term, and the planning commission shall select a new vice chair.
I thought I saw that in there. Would that cover on both ends then, and if the term expired?
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Denny, I think it might be the concern that if a chairperson were elected for a 2-year term and very shortly thereafter had to be replaced, and the the successor, their 3-year term would expire before the end of that. I think under operation, once their primary term expires, they would no longer be eligible to sit on the planning commission, and the position of chairperson would become vacant again.
Right, and then it would, that other...
And the succession 3.5 rule would come into play again.
Okay.
We can only hope that you all have long, continuous, and fully filled terms.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions on the bylaws? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the changes to the bylaws as recommended by staff.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the bylaws with the addition what she mentioned in there. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote. Amy Baker.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Ellen Stork.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Tom Dials.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 8-0. Any decorations?
I was approached by a member of the public regarding the Johnson's Corner on the consent agenda, but it does not and would not influence my voting in any way.
And I have a conflict with case number D, and I'm going to step down and for the rest of the meeting and have Mark take over as chairperson.
So we just have one case on the consent agenda now, that's correct?
Correct.
So I'll entertain a motion, or if there's any questions on the agenda, which we would be approving case DEV 21-134/135 Johnson's Corner as a part of that.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda. Second.
We have a motion. Tom, second by Wolf, to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote. Amy Baker,
Yes.
Alan Stork,
Yes.
Jaden Bailey,
Yes.
Will Schmidt,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Tom Dials,
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. All righty. Moving on to the regular agenda, case DEV 21-093, Dusler's boat storage. This is not a public hearing item. This is a reconsideration of an application for a special use permit for a boat storage facility. Special use permit request is for the following described property: a tract of land in the southwest quarter of Section 29, Township 11 South, Range 22 east of the 6 p.m. in Leavenworth County, Kansas, also known as 15829 174th Street. And we heard this a couple of months ago, I think, and the Board of County Commissioners heard it and have sent it back to us. So, planning staff?
Correct. This item was heard by this body, I believe, in August of 2021. There was a recommendation of denial because it does not meet the comprehensive plan future land use map. On September 1st, the Board of County Commissioners also reviewed this case. There was a recommendation for denial or for approval that did not pass. There was 2 yeses and 3 noes, so they did not get the needed votes to approve or recommend approval of this SUP. However, after that motion did not pass, there was a motion placed to send this back to the Planning Commission for reconsideration of the factors. They did not specify which factors for you guys to look at, but they did leave it up for you guys to reconsider if you so choose.
These are always challenging for me when the county commissioners send it back to us without much in the way of direction, because I don't know what we're supposed to reconsider again. Mm-hmm. I think, was it unanimous that we voted to deny,
yes.
I think?
There was 1 absence and 2 vacancies, but yes, it was unanimous otherwise.
Okay. And since this is coming back to us, we don't have to open up the public hearing if we choose not to, but we can.
The public hearing has been concluded, so this is if you guys choose to reconsider the factors as presented during the public hearing.
Okay. So I would ask commissioners if you want to open it back up, which would mean hearing from the applicant and or any public that is here that wants to speak, or we don't have to.
Mr. Chairman, if you were to reopen the public hearing, we would need to table this matter to another hearing so the proper notice could be given.
So we don't really have that option
if
tonight.
I could offer this to assist the board, it was sent back to you for reconsideration. I'm not certain under what parameters you were to reconsider this. If you choose to reconsider it, I think you could just do so as your secretary alluded to, based upon the facts presented to you. If you do not believe that reconsideration is necessary, you could just basically vote to that effect and send that back to the Board of County Commissioners.
So there's really no additional information, correct?
Not that staff has at this time.
Nothing has changed.
The only thing that I would add is somebody who is new and wasn't involved in that. I'm not privy to the information that was passed on at that meeting in terms of the public and character of the neighborhood being a consideration. I would be open to hearing that again, but only because I wasn't present then.
Well, if we chose to go that route, we'd have to table it tonight and then notify everybody, and probably next month hear it again. So if that's the way the board wants to go, that's what the route we'd have to take on.
Yeah, I think this should be tabled. I'm right here with Mr. Bailey. Neither one of us have enough information of why it was denied the first time. And if there's no new information present currently to approve it, you're not giving me any grounds to say yes or no. I need a little more information as well. From a legal standpoint, what's our legal standpoint of putting a boat storage out in the middle of the county? I mean,
Mr. Owens, that's more of a policy finding on the part of this board, not so much a legal matter. I would, just to Commissioner Bailey and Owens, I believe this matter has been twice already before the
has.
Planning Commission and twice already before the Board of County Commissioners. The first time under, I will call it the original plan, the second two times under the revised plan. The revised plan was sent back to you with, I will use the phrase, a paucity of information as to what you are to reconsider. But there have been two public hearings on this conducted by this Planning Commission and two hearings conducted by the Board of County Commissioners. I cannot tell you that any, in my humble opinion, any new factual information has come to light.
And I definitely understand both your guys' points on that, not.
Well, that helped give me some clarity not only there.
Unfortunately, we cannot open the public meeting, sir. So, what's our thoughts here? Do we want to?
If nothing has changed, I can't
Nothing,
see why.
we haven't got
my vote.
anything, nothing's changed.
Well, I'll entertain a motion then.
I'll make a motion we again deny case DV 21-093 based on no new information, nothing changes from the last time we heard it.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor and a second to deny based on no new information presented. Is there any discussion?
I just note, in the interest of comfort, the comprehensive plan is the guidance of the county commissioners to this commission on how to interpret policy on where these are. And as staff notes, this doesn't meet the comprehensive plan future land use. It doesn't meet any of the guidelines for surrounding land use. And if they don't give us any other information, then our default position has to be the comprehensive plan unless the Board of County Commissioners comes back and says, hey, I want you to change this and consider. If we get no guidance, then we don't have anything to act on.
I agree. And I also would think if it was a 5-4 vote last time.
Yeah.
Okay, well then maybe, but it was unanimous. And with no other information, I agree with you, Tom.
So tell me if I'm wrong on that. Would that not then set a precedent that in any, because in the comprehensive plan, this would be R2.5, I believe. Is that correct?
It is zoned RR5.
Okay, RR5. That in any of those areas of zoning, it would set the precedent of a denial vote for any sort of special use for a business on your home property.
I think my point is we got no guidance from the Board of County Commissioners.
Gotcha.
We got nothing but the comprehensive plan that they approved. So,
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm sitting, and we had two of the commissioners that voted to approve this, but we get no rationale passed down to us. So if they're not going to say why they voted to approve it, I'm not going to second guess them. Tell me what you think needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything upon which to change my prior vote.
Is there a large body of water anywhere near this property for boat storage? Or, I mean, normally when you're boat storage, you're by a body of water. I mean, I'm not seeing that anywhere on here. Other
Even
than
that
that,
explanation, he said it's Lake Quivira that most of them go to and
That's
from.
all like we're-
okay.
Uh-huh.
They were just being stored here during the off season,
Right.
maintained
Probably
or whatever, and then taken back to Lake.
Probably
Quivira.
on trailers,
Yeah.
I would guess.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? We have a motion on the floor and a second. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Amy Baker?
No. Or we know, a yes to the no.
Okay, so
Yes,
we're, a
yes.
yes
Yes.
is to deny.
Yes to deny.
Yes to
Yes to
deny.
deny.
Okay. Alan Stork?
Yes, I think.
Yes to
Jaden
deny.
Bailey?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Tom Dials?
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt?
Yes to deny.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to deny. this go back to the board then again?
Yes.
The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than October 27th. At their meeting, the commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. I'm assuming that date is correct, the 27th of October?
Right, that is the earliest that this item could be heard by the board.
Okay. So, sir, I would recommend that you be back at that meeting. And sorry for you feeling like if you're being ping-ponged around here. All right, moving on to case DEV 21-144/145, Redford edition. Did we have people out in the lobby for this one that we need to bring in, or is that the next one? No, Stephanie said we had a group, but I can't remember between which cases. Okay. This is the consideration of a preliminary and final plat for Redford Edition on the following described property, a tract of land in the southwest quarter of Section 16, Township 8 South, Range 22 East of the 6th PM in Leavenworth County, Kansas, also known as 16669 Santa Fe Trail. Planning staff will now give their report.
As mentioned, you have a application before you for a subdivision, both the preliminary and final plat, at 16669 Santa Fe Trail. This property currently consists of one lot. They are proposing to subdivide this parcel into 4 lots and one tract. The tract would be non-buildable, primarily due to the fact that it is in a floodplain, which they have noted there for you on both the preliminary and final. Lot 1 would be the site of where the existing house on the property currently is, and then Lot 2 and 3 and Lot 4 would all access off of Amelia Earhart down below. So the proposed subdivision, it does meet all subdivision standards for this zoning district, with the exception of Lot 4. As you can probably see, that it is a kind of an orphan lot. It was separated from its parent lot, obviously, when Amelia Earhart was built out. So it is now constrained to that specific size, but it would not meet the lot depth width requirement for that zoning district. So we are requesting that you guys approve an exception with this plat to account for that lot. In addition, it is not within 660 feet of an incorporated city limit, so we are recommending that you guys waive the septic system requirement for this lot. We also received notification from KDOT about lots 2, 3, and 4. There are 2 existing driveways accessing off of Amelia Earhart. Lot 4 would be serviced by one, and then Lot 2 and 3 would be serviced by the other one. They will only approve that existing lot to remain. They will not allow for an additional driveway to access off of Amelia Earhart, so they will have to share that driveway, which they have accounted for with an access easement. They're shown on Lot 3. I've already mentioned the Tract 1 being located in a floodplain, so they would not be entitled to building permits on that lot. Otherwise, staff has reviewed this, and it does meet all the standards, as well as the drainage report that was included in the amended agenda. Thank you. If you guys have any further questions, we do have all of that outlined in the recommendation. So.
Okay, and this is for a preliminary and final. Could you bring up the recommendations?
Yes,
Staff recommendations for us, please. Thank you. If you could just leave those up. This is a public hearing item. Does the applicant wish to speak?
It's not a public hearing item.
This is not public.
Yeah,
This is
sorry.
not a public hearing item. My apologies. This is not a public hearing item. Having said that, does the applicant wish to speak? The applicant here? Okay. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No.
Questions or comments from the Planning Commission?
That's District 1, Water District 2, I believe. Is that, I'm correct on that, aren't I? The way I understand, District 2 is out of available water meters for that area? Is the recipient aware of this?
We never received any notification from the rural water district, so I don't know if they're quite aware, and I don't know what the parameters of the availability of water in rural water district 2 is.
Okay.
They might be able to use well water, given the size of these parcels. So that would be a question for rural water district 2.
Okay.
Commissioner Owens, and believe me, I don't intend to tell you, since you are new, when the application for a building permit comes in pursuant to this, that's the availability of public water supply or a water supply would have to be determined. I am somewhat familiar with the issue regarding public water supply in that area. If rural water district number 2 could not serve the property, I believe that rural water district number 5 sometimes steps in to provide those services.
And that's a great question and a great point you bring up, and quite frankly, I missed that. But as far as our process goes, I mean, it's something we should maybe consider and look at, but I don't think it would prevent us from approving the plat. But it's a valid question.
I'm looking through some of the information. There is an email in here that said there's a new rural District 5 easement that is shown on the final plat, so maybe they have already discussed that potential.
That's correct. There is a rural water district number 5 line that does go through a portion of this plat, which they had to create an easement for. But again, that we didn't get any information as to whether that would service the subdivision.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve case DEV 21-144, 145 with staff recommendations.
Second.
I think I heard Robert first, so we'll give it to him.
Calm down.
Oh, it's Tom?
It was Tom.
Oh, throwing,
I'm a ventriloquist.
yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so. I heard it coming from
Sorry,
over there.
Tom.
Give it to Tom.
They were almost in unison.
Yeah. Thank you for that correction. And this is, just so everybody understands, there is a couple of exceptions. Number 7 on the lot to depth ratio, and then the waiver on the septic system, for use of the septic system. So make sure everybody understands that. Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion? Roll call vote with members present. Amy Baker,
Yes.
Alan Stork,
Yes.
Jaden Bailey,
Yes.
Will Schmidt,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Tom Dials,
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than the October 27th, 2021 meeting. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. Anyone wishing to attend the Board of County Commissioners meeting or to give public comment will need to contact the board office prior to the meeting date, as space is limited.
And we will need to hold as we.
So this is when we need to bring folks in, okay?
I'll tell you what, there's a boatload of work that went into this
Alrighty, Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 21-131, a special use permit request for Kramer and Sons. This is a consideration of an application for a special use permit for a contractor's yard. Special use permit request is for the following described property: the south half of the north half of the southeast quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 24, Township 10 South, Range 21 East of the 6th PM in Leavenworth County, Kansas. Planning staff will now give their report.
Before you is a request, as mentioned, for a special use permit to operate a contractor's yard at 21655 187th Street out of Tonganoxie. It's about a quarter mile south of the Hollingsworth Road and 187th Street intersection. The property in question is 10 acres approximately and is zoned rural residential 5. The comprehensive plan has this designated as residential. The applicant has submitted an application with a narrative to outlining the operation of their business that they would like to have on site. But to paraphrase, they are wanting to store some trucks and trailers that they use for their business. They are not intending to store material on this site for their construction projects. They indicated that they typically ship that to the construction site. They do have some employees aside from those who do live on site, i.e. part of their family. So they would have 3 off-premises employees that would come to the site. Sounds like park their truck, get into a company truck, and leave the site during the day. Their hours, they typically operate from about 7 a.m. to about 6 p.m., I believe is what they said. But due to the nature of their work, there might be certain instances where an emergency is needed for them to go into a site, which means that they would have to come pick up their trucks and then go out and fix whatever emergency that arises. So they are requesting some additional hours, maybe on the weekend or extended hours during the evening as part of their special use permit request. Aside from that, this neighborhood is primarily residential and agricultural in nature. The surrounding properties are zoned rural residential 5. It's not densely populated, and Tonganoxie is approximately 3.4 miles to the southwest of this property, and it's not part of any initial growth management area. Other impacts were outlined, such as noise, which would be minimal considering most of the work is done off-site. Traffic would be constrained to just their employee traffic that would be generated. They typically do not have customers that come on site during the day. And then any sort of deliveries would be primarily limited to office supply deliveries. As mentioned, they typically send their materials for a project to the work site. They indicated that they would not include any significant security lighting. They just have some minor security lighting and some video for safety purposes. Outdoor storage is just limited to those trucks and trailers that were included into their narrative. And then waste, they had indicated that they meet all of the standards that have been outlined under, I believe, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment as to disposal of waste that's generated due to their business. However, staff has noted that this does not meet the future land use map designation, which is residential, which is something that we have seen before with new special use permits. So due to that, staff is recommending denial of the special use permit. So if you have any further questions, please let us know. I do know the applicant is in attendance today. So.
Okay, is there any questions of staff this time? This is a public hearing. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. You are limited to 3 minutes per person except for the applicant. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. Does the applicant wish to speak? Yes. Come on up, sir. Your name and address, please.
Scott Kramer, 21655 187th Street, Tonganoxie. Honored members of the zoning board, the director here, we appreciate the opportunity to speak and give our reasoning on why we need the special use permit. Primarily, our property is large and vast. It's very well hidden from the street. We have huge cedar trees out front. The only way you can see is to pull into our driveway what we have. We do support the water districts in this area, namely Rural Water 7, 8, and have done some work for 9, and I'm sure we'll get calls from others when they get in a jam. Primarily, it's a parking lot we're looking at. There is no work that is done on our property with the equipment that we have, and we have a small, modest construction company with a couple of track hose and a few trucks and trailers to pull them, and some accessory equipment like buckets and so on. We did bring today Robert Klingenberg with Rural Water 8, who we have serviced a number of times. Our primary is water. We bring water to the patrons of Leavenworth County. When there is an emergency situation, we're on call. We'll come out in the middle of the night if necessary, because time is money. And when you're wasting water, that's money to the patrons of this town. And if we were off-site, that would severely delay our response time. And we pride ourselves on being on the job, especially in these emergencies. And of course, it always happens on a holiday, a Friday night, or a Saturday night. I think Robert would like to speak and just give a moment, but before we go there, I just want to make sure that you understand we're good neighbors. We brought several of our neighbors here tonight. We make very little noise. In fact, Tonganoxie Road makes a lot more noise than we'll ever make. So from that perspective, I realize that we're zoned, but we're really no more than everyone else in the county that their company allows them to drive a truck home and park it. And that's more or less what we're looking for. When we leave, we don't work 7 days a week, although we're 27, or 7 days a week, 365 days a year on call. We try and do a 4-day work week, 40 hours a day. Most of our equipment, when in use, stays off campus. For example, we're doing water services for Rural Water 7 at the new school down off of Highway 32, and that equipment's there. It's not back and forth. There's no reason to move it back and forth because we're going to be there a number of weeks. So, and that is true with almost everything other than an emergency water leak, which typically takes us, if parts are available, 4 to 5 hours to repair. So I don't think we're a public nuisance. I don't believe anyone has complained during the question section, and we realize that we are zoned or residential, or at least that changed between 2019 and 2021. But from given a standpoint of a convenience, our efficiency, and our ability to respond to our neighbors that have a water issue, a water leak, or even putting in lines of water, that's an important resource for this county and those of us that live in this county. None of us want to have the water go out in the middle of a shower. So I would like to ask Robert Klinkenberg if he would like to come up and say something, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, that would, he would actually fall under the people speaking in favor of that, since he's not he's not technically the applicant.
Correct. So 3 minutes.
He'll be given a chance.
And I don't know if there's anyone in here in objection. Our neighbors across the street next door are here as well, and
we'll give them their chance. Yeah. Sir, I've got a question, and then I'll see if the other commissioners have a question as well. What's your radius from this property as far as how far out you go to work?
Typically Leavenworth County.
Okay. So you go all over the county.
Other than we have to go get parts down in Olathe and things like that, but we've not done work in Wyandotte and so on, and we have about with my son, about 18 years of experience in doing this, and so we're very professional, and I don't think we've even had a complaint of anyone on the work that we've done. So,
okay. Any other questions, commissioners?
So if you're just asking for a special use permit now, where have you had all this stuff this whole time, and what have you been doing?
We started the business in 2020,
okay.
January 2020, and as you might be aware, there's a lot of details in starting a business. We realized that we should do a special use permit many months ago, and we'd like to do things above board and be honest, and here's what we are and who we are. There was, obviously, COVID was a delay. There was a time when these offices were shut down, and you can blame me, because we knew we needed to do something, but we got busy doing other things, and there was nowhere to go with that.
And this is your personal property, your land where you live?
Yes, it's all in my son and his wife's name.
Okay, that was my question.
My question to you, your growth potential of your business. Are you looking at staying a small 5-truck company, or are we going to turn around in 2 years and we're going to have Steve Miles sitting out there with 50 trucks and 50 machines cluttering up the property? And I get I'm pushing there, but if you, how big do you think you want to go?
I'm glad you addressed that, because growth is where my son and I have had numerous conversations. We don't want to be a Westland. We don't want to be a Miles. That entails a whole lot more money and a whole lot more risk. And we have found a niche, which is the rural water districts, that doesn't require us to go beyond 2 trucks and 2 track loaders and a skid loader. That's all we need to do the work around here. And the only reason we have a bigger one is when we get in these big projects, you need to dig faster to make it worth your while. So right now, we have reached more or less a diminishing marginal return. If we get bigger, it's going to cost us a lot more money to grow, and we don't need to. We might add one more employee, and in fact, I think we've had an employee because the work was too hard. So we're 6 now instead of 7, which is what the original. And more or less, he didn't want to do the work. So, and we've not replaced him because we don't need to right now. We've got the right amount of people to do the jobs and the right amount of equipment for pretty much any water circumstance that we could run into. And I don't see us growing beyond that.
I just want to be clear. So you purchased the land in 2020, or the business started on
Business
your property?
started, the LLC went into effect in 2020, and the land was purchased 7 years.
I've lived there.
Yeah. So
With the intent of just living there, not putting a business there?
There was some job things that happened from
Okay.
Is there more than one residence on the property?
Grandma and Grandpa live in the big barn behind, and that's part of our long-term plan was to, and we did permit that, by the way, and it is zoned properly. My wife and I had 3 kids. This is my wife, Belinda, by the way. 3 children, 2 live in Colorado, and this is the one who gets to take us to the grave. But it was a good move on our part. We get to see our grandkids all the time, and also operating a business out of there is important to us too for that quality of life issue. We're not having to commute anywhere to go get our equipment. It's right there on site, ready to go whenever we need it. So, and frankly, it sits idle a lot, and it's not really visible from the street. I think you can see it from the air. You can't see it from Tonganoxie Road, and you can't see it from our neighbors' houses, and we feel we're fairly secluded. And we're good neighbors. We're very quiet, and we're cognizant of that. And that's why our trucks are preloaded the night before, after. So if there is an emergency, it's just drive it off the lot and go fix the repair. And I will say that we've had those experiences, and Robert can attest to this. We had one just around the corner from us where a guy ripped out 80 feet of, we also do your call to dig. So we plot the water lines so that somebody doesn't do this. This individual did not do that and ripped out 80 feet. So there were a bunch of people without water, but they were only out of water for 4 hours. And we were there in 5 minutes from when we got the call. So that's a huge service, I think, to the county and the patrons of this county.
Josh, can you bring up the conditions? Sorry, have you had a chance to read these? We're bringing them up on the screen here, but are you familiar with the conditions that staff, if we approve this, would recommend that we include?
I've reviewed this information. I know we've had the fire marshal, Mr. McGaha, out, and various other people have come out and looked at the property, but I'm not quite sure what you're wanting.
So if we approve this, those 8 items up there on the screen is the items, basically the rules that you would need to abide by to keep your SUP in force.
Yes.
Okay.
And we have no signs that say we're here. We have, we realize this is a renewable. We have to prove it again within a few years. And I'm trying to think of what else caught my, we want to comply with all the federal rules, DOTs, all those things that make us allowed to do our job.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone present wishing to speak in favor of this request? In favor of this request? Come on up, sir.
Good evening.
Need your name and address, sir, for the record.
I'm Robert Klinkenberg. My address is 24577 219th Street, which is west of Jarbelo, Kansas. I'm an employee with Rural Water District 8, and we've been having Kramer and Sons do work for us for roughly close to a year and a half. And prior to that, I didn't even know he was there. I'm by his house several times a month, and as Scott said, from the road you really can't even see, that there's anything there at all. And when they said where he's at, I'm like, where is that? Because you just can't see. It's not an eyesore or anything. He has 2 trucks, 3 pieces of equipment, a couple trailers, and his trucks are DOT inspected. His equipment is relatively new, so, everything is fresh. It keeps his place nice. And his response time on emergency calls have been a great asset to us because getting a broken water main repaired and back in service is a major priority for us so that the disruption of service is down to a minimum. And he does live in our district, and because he's where he's at, his response time has been better than anybody else in a long time. He's been a real good asset for our district. I can only echo what Scott was saying about the size, because I've asked him before, how big do you want to get? And he said, I don't want to be a Steve Miles. And if I did, I wouldn't want it at my place. He doesn't have that interest. And he wants to do water line work. He doesn't want to do road work and everything. So, by sort of specializing in that, he doesn't have to get big. And as professional and as good a crew as he has, he could expand to other water districts because he's very professional. He does really great work. And him not being able to work at his location would hinder, time, and it would cost more money, and we'd lose time. And any time you lose time, you're paying for time. So it would cost the water district more money in order to get the job done that we needed to do. I know the county always promotes growth, and to not allow him to operate his business from his present location would probably be a hardship for his company, because he would have to find some place to either buy, some place to rent. The extra expense of finding another location would be difficult. It probably would be an expense that doesn't benefit his company at all. The way he operates now would probably make things more difficult for him. And as hard as it is to get a company off the ground when you're starting, that that extra expense would probably be a hardship for him, community in which he serves. I've witnessed Kyle at his work and everything, and he really tries to do the right thing, and that's why he is applying for a special use permit, because he wants to do the right thing. And hopefully you can approve his permit so he can focus on making his company a success as others have in the county, because they've been given the same opportunity to work with a special use permit and have a business in the county and in the rural area. And for him to have to maybe move to inside city limits in order to work or to get a permit, it just probably would not help his company any. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, sir.
Just one other thing, you will find a letter from Rural Water 7 as well, as far as how we're also supporting them as Rural Water.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else present wishing to speak in favor of this request,
Bill Van Fleet, 21650 187th Street, which is directly across the street from Kyle. And I'm on District 8's board, Water District 8. And I just want to echo what Robert said. As a board member, I don't want somebody taking 2 hours to get out and fix a repair. And as a neighbor, I didn't even know he was in business for a while. I mean, his driveway lines up. He comes and goes. I don't even, it's not a detrimental effect to me at all, you know. I've got more complaint with the county dump trucks than I do with him. So that's, make it short and sweet. It's just, I hope you guys approve it, because it needs to be done.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
My name is Kenneth Mara, 21736 187th Street, directly across the street and north of Mr. Van Fleet. Just here to show my support. Known the Kramers for quite a while, since they moved into the neighborhood. Great people, great neighbors. That's it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor?
Clayton Oxley, 21815 187th Street. I'm just north of Kyle's property. There's one property in between us. I can't see his property or his house from my house, but it's pretty close. I can't think of anything to add other than what everybody else has already said, except for one thing is, in the county, the water lines don't have as many valves as you do in the city. So when a line gets hit and you got to repair it, there's several more people without water than there is in the city, where you can turn a valve and everybody keeps their water while you fix the main. But I just wanted to add that his response time would certainly help the county.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor?
We'll take strangers today.
It's open to whoever wants to come up and talk. Is anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to this request? In opposition? Is there any other additional information to be presented by staff?
No, sir.
Public comment portion of this public hearing is now closed. Questions or comments, commissioners?
I guess I would just like to say that it sounds like a pretty positive thing. The neighbors agree, the community agrees there's a need, and it sounds like he takes very good care of his property and has everything in order. I think I would recommend that we would approve a special use permit.
I agree. It doesn't meet the comprehensive plan, and we don't rubber stamp just because we've been told that before. I appreciate you coming in here very respectfully. Your whole entire family, your neighborhood speaks, volumes. But I have lived out in the county when that happened, and the response time is very vital. And it's not doing anything to anybody, so I would also recommend it.
I think this is why I kind of made the comment earlier about having a business on your property and the precedent that may or may not set. And just because it doesn't perfectly follow the comp plan, I think it bodes well for the county, for the people who live there, and provides a vital service. So.
Well, the name of this, or the term, is special use permit, which by definition is
right.
It's a special circumstance. So, which means it doesn't really fall under our guidelines, and so we have to make it a special use permit. So, by definition, I agree with you. Any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Are we doing the 5-year?
Yeah, it's a 5-year renewable plan. I don't see a problem in 5 years if he has 50 trucks. We say no in 5 years.
I
mean,
know, but
that's
we were doing the 3. But I mean, I personally
Five is traditionally what we have done.
5 was recommended. Okay.
And that's what staff put in their recommendations. They recommended, again, for denial of this. But on first-time special use permits, I mean, this board can do whatever we want. But traditionally, we've gone 5 years.
And I wanted to help you. I wasn't trying to. I want to make sure because I think, like I said, your presentation, everything makes sense. So,
totally agree.
Personally.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the commission approve case number DEV 21-131 under the conditions proposed for approval.
Second.
And that be recommended to the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Tom and a second by Jaden to approve the SUP. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote. Amy Baker.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Tom Dials.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than October 27th, 2021 at their meeting. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. Anyone wishing to be present for this meeting needs to call the Board of County Commissioners office as to be put on the attendance list.
Mark, I'm going to amend that to November 3rd.
November 3rd.
Yes.
It's been a while since I've done this. Is this wording changed? Because we used to give a specific date for the meeting.
We have, but it was requested that we say the earliest, just in case that date does change.
Okay. So it's no earlier than November 3rd.
Correct.
Okay. Any person wishing to file a protest petition must contact the Planning and Zoning Office. Protest petitions must be filed with Leavenworth County within 2 weeks of this meeting. To be valid, the protest petition must be signed by owners of 20% of the land area in the notification area. So, sir, good luck to you. Be sure you're at that meeting at the Board of County Commissioners no earlier than November 3rd. Thank you. Do we need to?
Signage, can I remove the yellow signs?
Yes.
We'll pick that up, right?
Thank you.
What was Stephanie going to say?
You're welcome. We do have, and Mark, this next one will also be November 3rd, not
Okay.
October 27th.
So I'm assuming that the applicant or whomever, the public, are they going to know, or they just have to kind of watch when the agenda comes out? Okay.
We'll try and keep it to the same timeline that we've always had, but given recent cases being pushed back, that's where that new language comes from.
Fair enough. All right. Moving on to case DEV 21-133, Seymour rezoning. This is consideration of an application for a rezoning request from the current RR 2.5 zoning district to the B3 zoning district of the following described property: a tract of land in the north half of the east half of the northeast quarter of Section 13, Township 10 South, Range 22 East of the 6th PM, Leavenworth County, also known as 139th Street. This does require a public hearing. Planning staff will now give their report.
Before you is a request to rezone from rural residential 2.5 to B3 at a property that has no address because it is a vacant lot, but it does front K7 and then Paramount Road. The request, the parcel in question is approximately 10.3 acres in size. The comprehensive plan does have this property designated as residential 3 units per acre and also mixed use. If you'll go to the next slide. I just wanted to point out that technically this property has dual zoning. A portion of it is zoned B3 in that northeast corner of the parcel. The rest of it is zoned rural residential 2.5. The request specifically is to rezone the entire property to the B3 zoning designation. And it's very similar in the comprehensive plan as well. You'll see that it has the majority of the parcel designated as residential 3 units per acre, and then that northeast corner as mixed use. In regards to the character of the neighborhood, it is predominantly residential. There is residential obviously to the west, and there is residential to the south. There is vacant property to the north, but across the street there is commercial. Due to that, staff believes that the intention, based off of the comprehensive plan and its current zoning, is that there was an intention to have commercial that fronts that intersection specifically and along that road frontage of K7. That speaks to the suitability of the property for this zoning designation request. It is probably a pretty prime location for commercial development. It is adjacent to Basor, the Basor city limit line, with the intention, at least from staff's perspective, that it might be annexed in the upcoming future just because of its location. That being said, even though it doesn't specifically conform to the comprehensive plan, staff is generally in support because it not only does have already that zoning designation on the property, you can see to the south it does have that B3 zoning that is adjacent, as well as the comprehensive plan land use designation that's adjacent that would match this request. So if you have any further questions from staff, I'm happy to answer them. I also wanted to make you aware that we received notification from some neighboring property owners, so you should have had that at your chairs when you came in today. So.
And you reached out to the city of Basor, and they don't have any objections?
I have no comments either for or against this.
And the document Amy was talking about is this email here with signatures on there from several of the surrounding homeowners there. Hopefully you've had a chance to read that. Is there any questions of staff at this time?
Can you put the conditions up there?
Yeah, can you put the conditions?
I think it would just be the recommendation, correct?
So they're opposing it.
Do you want the recommendation?
Or I guess there's really maybe the factors to be considered, because there really are no recommendations or factors. Yeah. Mixed use, can you maybe just talk just a little bit about mixed use and what that means?
Mixed use, according to the comprehensive plan, is really a designation that would allow for residential and commercial uses to be in close proximity to one another. So you could see, single-family residential next to commercial. It would allow for a broad spectrum of uses.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Upon opening this public comment portion of the hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. You will have 3 minutes to do so. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Stephen Rosenthal, 22715 Baser, Kansas. I'm representing the Seymours. They asked me to represent them on this matter. They contacted me a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago now, about putting this property on the market. None of them live in the area any longer and wanted to put this property on the market. Well, the first thing that we saw, it's zone B3 and residential both. So to work up a marketing plan, they asked me, he said, well, how do we go? Do we go commercial? Do we do residential? Or how do we market the property? Well, I decided the first thing we better do is meet with the county and city of Baser and see how they want this property to go. So I arranged a meeting with Crystal from the county and Leslie from the city of Baser and Gene Miracle from the city of Baser. He's the one who had a public works for them on the sewers for them. We sat down. Both Crystal and Leslie both commented that they really wanted that area to go commercial, and that was their desire. In meeting with G Miracle, can you put the picture of the land with the subdivision up? There was some problems when the subdivision was developed. One thing, as you can see, there are no outlet streets to the east that would service this subdivision if they was going to go residential. It's kind of blocked off. It was a real big mistake when that was developed. But the biggest mistake was there's also no sewer access to this property. G. Miracle said that he probably could get to the east, to the north of this property. There's a little strip of land between Fairmont Road and the first house. He could probably get one line in there for a hookup for probably one, maybe two businesses that would go in there for a sewer hookup. He said it would be good for one large business or maybe one strip mall, but never could service a subdivision at this time coming from that direction. If they did, they'd have to come away from the south, and I don't know how far that was. And he said it was really a detriment of developing that into single-family houses anyway. But they all expressed the opinion that they wanted it to be zone business anyway, being that corner, and that's a prime corner on the 7th Street, 7 Highway corridor. So that's where we are today, and we're just trying to get a good plan to start marketing this property and bring some more business in our area. So if you have any questions, I'll answer.
Where's the Wyandotte County line right there?
Is
that the
highway divides it.
Yeah.
The other side is Wyandotte County. So there are businesses there, but there's no businesses on the Leavenworth County side.
So your clients don't have any plans on development at this point? They
No,
just want to sell it?
They just want to market the property, and it's pretty hard to market a property if people want commercial. You tell them, well, only this little piece is commercial, and that's it. So and the way the county and the city of Baser talked, that they didn't want residential, so if somebody wanted to put residential in, they would have an objection to it because they felt that corner needs to be commercial. So there's no reason not to rezone it if that's where the city and the county wants to go, and they want to market it, and they don't want to mislead anybody by marketing it and saying it can be residential when that is probably something that would be difficult or maybe even impossible for them
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, Chairman. I believe this property is just north of Falcon Lakes, if I'm correct.
Well, it's a mile.
Mile, yeah, but isn't all the front of Falcon Lakes zoned commercial property
Yeah.
anyway?
Yeah.
I thought that whole K7 corridor
Well,
was,
and the properties to the south of this are zone commercial too. So
Okay,
it's
yeah.
ongoing zoning. As you see the map there on the left one, it is zone
B3.
yeah,
B3
because
is,
Falcon Lakes is right here.
Yeah.
ground in between there. The green part of this property is still R 2.5.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor? Now I hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of this request.
My name's Alfredo Medina Jr. I live at 14164 Brookstone Court, Basic, Kansas. Been there for 6 years. I was the fifth house in that housing development, Center Point Estates. We're right next to Field of Dreams, right? I was asked by the HOA and other house home members to read the statement that I hope you folks have in front of you. Center Point Estates is a subdivision located directly west of the above-mentioned property, the property mentioned, and is comprised of 105 homes. We believe this rezoning request would affect us negatively in the following ways. Number one, loss of privacy. Particularly on homes that line 101st Street will lose a great deal of privacy as the tree line and farmline lands, backyards, and separate our neighborhood from the noise and view of K7 Highway. This will cause an increase in noise for our entire neighborhood. Number two, loss of safety. We have already had issues with vehicle theft, vehicle break-ins, in our neighborhood. Losing our privacy from K7 will draw more attention to our neighborhood in a negative way. Several of our homes would have a business directly behind their backyards and could certainly open us up to more potential theft or other crime. This is a great concern with the vast numbers of young children that live in our neighborhood. We have a young neighborhood, as they say. Number three, increase in traffic. Fairmount Road already frequently needs patched and resurfaced roads. Pretty much about once a year happens. Anytime this happens, traffic is rerouted through our neighborhood to go around it. Adding businesses to the east of our neighborhood would only further this problem and create more privacy and safety concerns by adding even more traffic through our neighborhood. We also believe adding businesses there would further congest the intersection at Fairmount and K7. Number four, potential decrease in property values. For the above-mentioned reasons, we are concerned that this change could make our neighborhood less desirable and affect our property values. I kind of didn't move out into a small city like Basel so I can be around a commercial area. I kind of purposely, my family, and I'm sure a lot of other people too, purposely moved into a small neighborhood that was purposely located not amongst any types of commercial endeavors, right? Let alone the whole light pollution idea. For these reasons, we strongly ask that you oppose the rezoning request. If you will not deny this request, we would ask that you put a privacy easement between us so that the tree line can still provide some sense of privacy and noise barrier. Thank you very much for your time. If there's any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your input. Is anyone else present wishing to speak in opposition of this request? In opposition.
Hi, my name is Angela Hughes, and I live at 6989 141st Street. I have lived in Center Point for the last 14 years. I was the second family that lived in that community. So I was actually there when it was Thino Estates. And I oppose this idea And my concern is the traffic. Highway 7 already has a major issue with accidents. And Fairmount Road, my house actually, I can see the light from my backyard. And I have heard the sirens and know when there's an accident at that intersection. And I also, myself, 5 years ago, was in an accident a mile down the road at the Hollingsworth exit. And I know just by adding a commercial stop in that section, you're going to increase the traffic stops. I would suggest that you would fix the traffic issue on Highway 7 first before we start rezoning for commercial in there. The reason I say that is Baser Field of Dreams. When they have games, the traffic is horrendous on Fairmount Road. You cannot get into the neighborhood unless someone is nice enough to let you in, and the traffic backs up. I have watched this get increasingly worse in the last 14 years. And I have been there. I have watched the growth. I have watched all these homes go in. And it's very concerning to me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
My name is Robin Holmes. I'm at 6990 141st Street, and we face the the proposed area. And like Angela, we've been there 6 years, but we also oppose this because we've seen the school buses stopping and having problems with, having to evacuate kids and things like that. And it is a problem with the traffic, the Field of Dreams, and our neighborhood being responsible for the pavement on our street going around in our neighborhood. And then when they have to divert the traffic through all of these, a lot of people just cut through our neighborhood just because they can get around that traffic. And so it puts an undue burden on us financially as a homeowners association that now we have to pay more frequently to have our roads fixed in front of our home, just to even pull into the parking lot in our house. So that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. Melissa Johnson. My address is 6992 141st Street in that subdivision. You won't find my name on the protest petition that was submitted, even though it came from the same subdivision that I'm in. I wanted to appear tonight to hear the information before I signed something protesting it. And what I've heard here tonight hasn't swayed me to say, yes, I think this is a great idea. What I've heard here is let's make it commercial with absolutely no idea what's going to be put next to my children. We do live in that first phase, which is the horseshoe that butts up against Fairmount Road. That phase has no sidewalks, no streetlights. My son's with me today. This is his civic engagement activity for the semester. So our children are in the streets. They don't have a sidewalk to walk on. We've talked about the traffic. We've talked about the burglaries. We don't have street lights. So that makes the crime even more of an issue because there's nothing to illuminate our area. And if we draw more attention to it with the commercial activity, we don't have that security either. I know, you talked about Falcon Lakes just down the road. Go a little further to Falcon Lakes and you have a gentleman's club. I don't want to stand here today and have this be rezoned to a commercial property when I have no idea what it's going to be in my neighborhood. I oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Kenneth Holmes, and my address is 6990 141st Street. My house is there on the screen. As you can see, the owners of this property is not here. The gentleman who's representing them, his house is not on there also. The commercial versus residential, he gave some explanation of a small slither of land. Well, there's 100 homes that didn't have any problem at all with sewage, water. So that's not a point. Baser not having a voice or anything to say, I really find that hard to believe, because that being annexed is a commercial source revenue for Baser. It's just a matter of time if you commercialize this. We've talked about the burglaries. We've had vehicles stolen in our neighborhoods. We talked about the traffic, the safety of the kids. There's just, to me, overwhelming evidence. We also moved from Overland Park to more of a rural area because we just didn't want to deal with this. I don't want to be backed up next to another gentleman's club. I don't care if it's a service station or a strip mall with a washateria. I really don't care. I don't want all of the activity on this particular corner. That's our house. That's our homes. He's representing the people. His house is not up there. Okay? I oppose. Please consider what we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Everyone in the room has had a chance. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No.
Public comment portion of this public hearing is now closed. Questions or comments, commissioners?
Yeah, Steve, has KDOT been spoke to about access to the property off of K7? Are they going to allow any more?
Come up, Steve.
Are they going to allow us any more driveways off of K7 highway or entrances?
Well, not off of K7. I'm sure not. It's going to have to come off of Fairmont Road. And I think it was comments in there from Public Works about where they would want that road to come in from. As property, as some of these other commercial ones develop farther south, there probably will be a right in, right out, another exit, but it's not going to be on this property, I don't believe. It's going to be too close to the intersection. That intersection does have a traffic light, and it's one of the few around there that does. So it is the corner that I think that is prime for commercial development. Actually, there was a plan, way before, many years down the road, of widening that and putting a roundabout actually around there before that subdivision was built, and have reverse frontage roads there. That's been quite a while back, and that never came to be. But that area was always designed to go commercial. That whole area, actually.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions?
No, because I believe if we look at that B3 just to the south of what you're proposing, there is an access off K7 to go into that commercial piece of property there. So that, in the long-term effect, that probably will be an outer road there once all of this is.
I'm sure all that frontage there is going to end up commercial someday. It's just a matter of how long it's going to be. It's just the prime area for it. So
yeah, great.
And I'm sure on the north side too.
I mean, I've been to a lot of games at Field of Dreams with my grandsons, and boy, it's a lot of traffic. And I don't see changing this to commercial is going to be anywhere close to what game nights at Field of Dreams are.
Yeah, well, and actually, it's probably a good thing for Field of Dreams because there's nothing around there for them to get refreshments or anything while they're there at the game. If something like that would come there, a restaurant or something.
Yeah, you're going to go to the Wyandotte County side to get something to drink.
Yeah, well, there's just a convenience store, so it's not really a food service industry. If that's what comes, I mean, we don't know what's going to come, but if that would make a good location for something like that, for sure. But
something that comes to my mind is a topic in a a case that was presented in front of the commissioners recently that was denied due to a lack of a plan for the property.
That's what I was going to ask.
And so I think some of the citizens brought up a valid concern in that we rezone this without any clue of what the plan would be. You know, it's not a prerequisite to rezone this to sell it. You can sell as is, you just have to disclose what it is. So then that can kind of gets kicked down the road, and whoever wants to rezone it would actually be the person to have a plan of what it would be moving forward, which from a all information and being out on the table seems to be a clear route and something that I had thought of.
Well, you bring up a good question or good points there, but you know, when we do any type of rezone, we don't require a site map or a plat or anything like that. It's just
Correct.
We either rezone it to what's being requested or we don't.
That's correct. I was just using
Yeah,
that.
no, it's. I'm not trying to disagree with you, but you know, above that, I guess in the comprehensive plan, we have in the list of uses of what can be at B3, right? So these are all the things that can be in B3. To address some of the concerns, I think, and I can't remember what we'd come up with on the Gentlemen's Club, but I think we've done everything we can possibly do legally to make those places.
I believe it has to be industrial, and
Yeah.
if not just industrial, but heavy industrial, which is
I mean, I think we've pretty much regulated it to next to nothing in the county, basically.
It would be a very interesting piece of land that they would be able to have to find and rezone.
To specify, they would need to get a special use permit in the I3 zoning district for a gentleman's club.
So just to put that out there, that that will not be happening there.
You know what size the lots are in the subdivision?
Approximately 12,000 square feet. 12,000 square feet.
12,000 square. Are they on sewer?
They are within the city of Basel, so I assume they are on city sewer and water.
But that sewer line couldn't service this property, though.
I don't know the specifics of that. It sounds like the applicant did communicate with the city of Basel, so.
If I could, we're a rural water district number 1.
Okay.
In that subdivision. There's rural water, but we do have Basel sewer.
But they have what for sewer?
Basel
Basel for the sewer? Okay.
I know this has the Field of Dreams right there, which is certainly a consideration, but the piece of land that's zoned, I'm pretty sure, commercial in front of Falcon Lakes has been for sale for how long?
18 years plus.
A long, long time.
Yeah.
And I know this is a little bit different, but just because it's, if we did pass this and rezone it, that doesn't mean tomorrow it's going to sell and they're going to start breaking ground. But
well,
There's other permitting things I have to go through before I do anything.
in the letter that was presented to us that the gentleman read, they reference an easement, that they would like to have an easement, a privacy easement. That's nothing that can happen at this level, correct? I mean, that would be at...
Once they come in.
Yeah, and once the site plan is submitted and all that process would take place.
You're correct in that we cannot put any conditions speaking to that as part of this rezone request. As for when the property develops, obviously it'll depend on whether it's in the city or the county at that time, because it might be in the city. At that point, it would be whatever regulations that we could require now. The applicant could have, communications with the neighborhood to add anything, but we would be tied to what our regulations say in regards to development.
All right, any other questions or comments, commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
I guess I have a question. So if it was zoned this initially, and you said somebody's been sitting on this for how many years and done nothing with it?
I have never found any sort of paper trail of anything being developed on this site.
Well, as a property owner, I guess when I look at this, and talk about the noise off of 7th Highway, I can't really see the value of that property for residential is there. I can't see people going right up to the edge of 7th Highway with houses. It seems like an ideal location for a small commercial development.
And just like Harbor Freights, they had to put retaining walls. This sound, and that's way down the road, but that privacy and the loss of all that develops. So yeah, you're right. I couldn't see the
along
development
with the
getting all
proposed
the way.
road changes
Right.
and things to
They
accommodate.
could build a
that.
berm there that commercial developer would have to do a lot for that neighborhood.
And they wouldn't. I don't think anybody would. They would, but I don't think somebody coming in to put a subdivision could pay for any of that.
I just can't see it for that purpose. I would think that commercial use for that property, I think the people are right. That's the best use for the property.
I agree.
I'll make a motion that we approve the rezoning request on DEV 21-133.
I'll second that.
Who was that?
Tom.
Throwing your voice over there, Tom.
I told you I'm a ventriloquist.
I have a motion on the floor and a second to approve the rezone from RR 2.5 to B3.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could, since this is a rezoning, in your staff report you received, there's a section called factors to be considered. There are 8 points listed. Commissioner Schmidt, in your motion to approve, would you specify that you would be adopting the findings of staff as presented in those 8 findings?
Sure, all the factors that the staff considered be part of my motion.
You accept that, Tom?
I do.
I'm sorry, repeat that, ma'am?
Those recommendations that you're
Yes.
adopting, please put back up. Thank you.
Yes. And these are factors to be considered that we look at as a board when we're making a determination whether to approve or deny a request. Any further discussion?
Just like to make a comment. I don't know whether it goes on the record or not, Mark, but obviously our ability to dictate what the site plan looks like from this position is 0,
right?
Maybe even negative. But I think the record should reflect that, I don't know if it's the planning and zoning department, but somebody ought to address the issues that were raised by these folks in how do I get a privacy easement included in the site plan? Who do I talk to? Because we don't have the power to do that, and quite frankly, I wouldn't know how to do that. But there ought to be somebody here in this building that goes to these folks down there and says, okay, the conditions you want to get the road worked on, to get, these traffic issues are traffic issues now. How do they deal with it? Who up here talks to these people about Fairmont Road and the traffic issues that exist today? So I think the onus is on county government to talk to these people who pay taxes here and tell them how to get stuff done. And they don't know, or they wouldn't be up here saying, hey, we don't understand. Quite frankly, I don't understand. So,
right, and I think you're 100% correct. And correct me if I'm wrong, staff, is that if we approve this, we don't see this again. So, as to development that comes here, that's all taken care of at the staff level.
Dependent upon what the proposal is, they might request that it be subdivided, at which time you guys would see it. If they're developing it as one lot, maybe not. If it requires a special use permit, you guys might see it. It's really hard for us to indicate to you what you will see and will not see unless we know what use is going
So
on.
if it is, because I was under the understanding if it was in our table of uses for B3, that they could do whatever they wanted to as long as it was in that table. But you're saying if it's platted, if it has to be platted, and therefore then it would come back to us.
Yes. So in some cases, it may come back to you. In other cases, it may not. If it's permitted by right, then they can proceed to site development, at which time administratively, yes, we will review any site plan or other requirements that would be placed on that property to develop and make sure that it conforms to our codes. Now, if it's something outside of our regulations that we can't require, we can certainly talk to the property owner and neighboring properties to let them know. But as far as what staff can require, this book is it. So,
A hypothetical situation in an instance where it does not come back to us and goes through you, would the concerned citizens have the ability to protest with certain concerns at that point?
as long as it meets the standards adopted in this regulations, I'm not aware of any other instance where they could come back and protest it. Like I said, without further information about what is going to happen on this property, it's really difficult for staff to give you a yes/no answer in this case.
Okay. But these, 120 people signed a letter. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess my question from this seat is, who answers the mail and goes back to these people and says, okay, your concerns can be addressed by A, B, and C. And I mean, a couple of points that they're concerned about were laid out fairly clearly here. That's not our province. Whose province in this building is it?
Like I said, it depends on what you're talking about. The privacy
It always
easement.
depends. I've lived my life on
I
depends.
realize that, but you're asking for hypotheticals that we can't always speak to. I'm telling you the process and what staff can require and what cannot require.
Okay.
So the real question is when a developer wants to come in. That is when a lot of this information is handled. Now, as to what triggers this further review or what is handled administratively, that I can answer, but all these additional requirements that were talked about here, that really comes up during the development review process. And
I understand that, and I understand you have to have a site plan and all that, and it will be sold by the client of Mr. Rosenthal will sell it, and it'll be sold as a unit, and then a site plan comes in, you look at that, if it meets B3, yada, yada, and all that. But no hypotheticals. Who answers the letter they wrote us up here? Or does it not get answered?
the letter really needs to be answered at this time. Now, if they're requesting a privacy easement, that is not something that we have in our regulations that we can enforce, if that answers that question. That, if anything, would need to be a private agreement between the developer and the neighborhood when it develops. But as far as I've ever read, there is nothing in our regulations that could require that. And we are bound to what is in this book. Now, I also want to point out, this could be developed when it's in the city, which has totally different requirements. So what I'm saying here today might not actually be the situation in which, or the state in which this property is developed, because it could be annexed into the city. I have no clue.
I'd be willing to venture if this does pass tonight and it's sold and business wants to come in, that the city will be very concerned and more interested in what's going on.
I think Baser will annex this quicker than we get a chance to vote on it, is exactly what I think on that. But once my deal is, we are the planning and zoning board, all of us up here, and it don't seem like we get a say-so here, but on down the road, it's like, oh, well, that's not your guys' choice to make. That's in our book. What if they buy that and they want to put a homeless shelter there? Does that fit in your B3 design? Or does that come back to the people and say, We don't want a homeless shelter right next to our homes, because I've seen it happen in the city limits, and nobody got a say-so there either. So
That's why it's important for you guys, when you get a rezoning request, you look at the uses that are in this table. You guys have the access to these regulations. If you don't, let me know. I'll make sure you do. It's really easy to just go down the line for B3 and see what's permitted, which is A, under allowed, what requires a special use permit, which is S, under SUP. If it's blank, it's just not permitted. That's what you guys are considering here right now. What uses would be suitable at this location?
Right, and Robert, to your point, I mean, we wrote that book basically.
Yeah,
I mean,
we did.
the
We all approved it.
the planning commission, along with the staff, they wrote the book. We approved it. We went through everything and all those tables of uses and approved everything. So, yes, maybe not specifically to this case. Do we have control or say-so in it? But at a 30,000 feet level, we absolutely did, because we approved the plan, if that makes sense.
I think we also have control right now, which underscores what I said earlier, is that us saying no to this rezoning doesn't mean that it doesn't turn commercial and turn into exactly what we all think it's going to turn into.
Development's coming this way.
Yeah.
Along 7, whether you want it or not. And what you're saying is, we don't want another gentleman's club or anything like that. There are boards set for that, and there's county developers, and you can go to LCDC and see and ask them what they think is coming this way, and those are open to the public as well. But I will venture to say it's all coming the whole way down there, whether you want it or not. And it actually might help your theft problem, because they will be having to they're going to do a lot of maintenance, and they have to answer all those questions you just said. So I just know no developer's going to buy that, I wouldn't think, and expand out to the road if they haven't done it yet.
Residential developer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if everything else is commercial the whole way up, that's where it's
Right up
going.
the Button Highway, they won't.
No.
I mean, honestly, we have flats that are for sale right now, and developers won't touch them on corners. Too expensive.
What I would say, though, also what is true is that keeping it as is doesn't stop somebody from purchasing it, and them, with the plan of what they're going to do, ask for a rezoning with better clarification for the citizens around of what may or may not be coming.
Right.
Because now it's rather ambiguous, and if we approve it tonight, their chance to raise concern has already been heard without knowing what's going in. And so there's a disconnect there.
But for the best use and the best value of that property, we would really be denying that present owner an opportunity to get his best bang for the buck.
I think
and it's only logical that that's what's going to happen.
I think so, but I think if you do that way too, I mean, you could argue both sides in terms of somebody getting slighted.
Well, it's zone 2.5 down next to that neighborhood. Nobody's ever going to develop 2.5.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Which has been a good discussion, by the way. Hearing none, roll call vote. Amy Baker?
Yes.
Alan Stewart?
Yes.
Jaden Bailey?
No. Do you want me
Yeah,
to
if
clarify
you can give your reason,
character of the neighborhood and lack of upcoming plan?
Okay. Will Schmidt?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Tom Dials? Yes. And Jeff Spink?
No, for the same reasons Jane gave.
We have 5 for, 2 against to approve the rezone. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than the 3rd of November. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. Anyone wishing to attend the Board of County Commissioners meeting or give public comment will need to contact the board office prior to that meeting date, as space is limited. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of this hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. And just to make sure everyone's clear, this letter or this petition will not count as that. So you'll have to do another one for that protest petition to be valid. Thank you all. We will now move out of planning and zoning and move into Board of Zoning Appeals.
We got too many, or we got the right number?
How many do we need now?
5.
Just 5 still? I think I read it in our bylaws, and I can't remember what it was.
6, 5, 4.
I thought I read 5.
We amended it to 5, if I remember correctly, yes. Oh, are you meaning the top end?
Yeah, of how many we can have. Are we good to go with 7, or do we need to? Can somebody call it a night early?
I think
I think it is.
Somebody gets a pass, Roster Rocks.
No. If I could, I'd say I'll take that strong. But whoever, if someone would like to take a.
I'll sit out in the audience.
All right.
Take a sabbatical.
All righty. We'll need to do a roll call. Commissioners present. Amy Baker.
Here.
Alan Stork.
Here.
Jaden Bailey.
Here.
Will Schmidt is abstaining. Robert Owens.
Here.
Tom Dials.
Here.
Jeff Spink.
Here.
And Mark Denny, I'm here as acting chair. Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 21-123, a variance request for maximum allowed lot coverage as outlined in the posted agenda. This is a consideration of a request for a variance from Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations under Article 5, Section 4.6, which requires a maximum allowed lot coverage of 2.5% for accessory building and structures. Staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is before you case DEV 21-123, as stated by the acting chair. This is a property that has a request for additional accessory structures. An accessory structure or building count towards the 2.5% lot coverage. So the lots, for lots under 2.5 acres or 2.51 acres in size in the county, you can have 2.5% of your lot covered by accessory buildings or structures. So that includes garages, that includes pools, that includes carports in this situation. So in this situation, the applicant has requested a variance for that. The property currently has more than 2.5% coverage due to error on planning and zoning's part. There's a pool and a garage on the property already. Both of those combined for more than 2.5% of lot coverage. It is your job, sitting as the Board of Zoning Appeals, to determine whether or not the applicant has made the case that they have met the factors to be considered. Again, those factors are established by Kansas statute. This is not a Leavenworth County statute or regulation. This is the Kansas statutory requirements. I presented the factors to be considered in the staff report. Briefly, I will run through the factors. The parcel was created as part of the High Crest West subdivision in 1987. The surrounding parcels also, like the property, which is 1.4 acres in size, range from the surrounding properties range from 1 to 1.9 acres in size. The action that the property owner is requesting will create further lot coverage in addition to the 2.5% coverage. The granting of the variance would not adversely affect the rights of the adjacent property owners. The strict application of the zoning regulations does not result in unnecessary hardship upon the property owner, as the property owner, the applicant, has created and applied for the pool and the garage. This was not done by somebody else. The requested variance would not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, or general welfare of the community. And the parcel was established over 30 years ago and has functioned as a residential home since 1997. Granting the variance would be opposed to the general spirit of the zoning and subdivision regulations by limiting the amount of open space required on a parcel. That is all I have. The applicant's agent is here to answer any questions that you might have, and I stand open for questions.
Not to bring up any bad memories or anything, but you said it was right now he's already in violation of the 2.5%, and you said it was staff's oversight. So what happened?
The applicant submitted for permits separately, and in the calculations provided, the square footage was not accurately provided, and so it appeared that it met the 2.5%.
And when was this? When did this happen?
I do not have that information in front of me.
So it's been a while?
A couple of years.
Okay.
Not accurately provided on their end.
So you weren't here for that?
No, I was not here.
Well, you get a pass.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
How much violation are they in currently?
That is a good question. I do not have that in front of me.
Double?
Not double.
Okay.
But as you can see, the parcel, it's a 1.4 acre lot.
Lost our.
It's all right. We'll turn our heads.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get your question answered?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other
Looks
questions?
like a lot of them have.
And you're saying this is a state statute, not a county statute on
For the variance
For-
itself.
okay.
The requirements that the applicant must meet are laid out in the italics, and the applicant must demonstrate the five things, the five requirements laid out under points A through E. And so that is the state statute. Leavenworth County has the regulation for the 2.5 lot coverage.
Okay.
2.5% lot coverage.
I'll take this time to talk about that. Whoever makes the motion, we need to go through those factors one by one to say whether or not, whatever your motion is, how those factors weigh into that and support your motion. And I'll say this here too, I'll remind everybody before the vote, but this stays at this level, so our decision is final. It does not go to the Board of County Commissioners. So we're the final say on this one. Okay, upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. Public portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward, sir?
I'd like to speak on behalf. I'm Matt Shepard with Rising Sun Solar. We're a solar entity located in Kansas City, local company. Speaking on behalf of Dan Wessel, property owner, address 25013 164th Street. We're looking to advance a solar power plant, a personal power plant for a customer. We're looking for jurisdiction to get this passed. Don't necessarily look at this as a net, like a structure. That could be subjective. What is structure? Is grass a structure? That's a root. There's a foundation, shrubs. We're basically providing a power plant for a customer that is saving them lots of money and providing cleaner air. You guys took an oath as public servants to do what's best for the community. This raises property value without raising property tax, increases the home value, just better energy, smarter power. Requesting to advance this project. And considering that it's already in violation, just like plot number 19, plot number 26, plot number 17. I mean, I guess there's already kind of eggs on our faces here. He wasn't here, so not responsible, I guess, for it. But no moving parts, no metal fatigue, no noise fatigue, harnessing the sun's energy on this customer's behalf, charging his mother's wheelchair and his wife's CPAC. So if we want to look at this as maybe a special permit because of that, or if we have to submit it that way, but we would be doing a disservice to the community if we do not allow better energy, smarter energy. It's black and white. The law reads as it is. I get that. If this motion is denied, I highly consider that you listen to me, maybe look at the language and write the rule a little bit differently, reflecting sustainable energy. But I'm open to answer any questions.
So where does it go? On top?
Permission to drop off some of the...
Yes.
Yes.
And the plans were provided in your packet.
That's what I gave.
A couple of options. This would be the ground mount, but we could also just put it on the ground, being no more than 2 feet high. The only way you can see it is from a helicopter.
Where's it at? Pool.
How many square feet is that?
Oh, so
There is a 14 kW, so your plans, I believe, are 32 foot by 60.
so we're talking about a 14-foot power grid stuck over here on their side yard is what we're looking at.
That is correct.
And I'm sure under our federal laws, we're going to have this case come up 400 more times here in the near future.
Sir, if you could just go back to the podium, just so we could pick up your the audio and for the recording.
Yeah, I'm surprised that this hasn't, maybe it has come across your desk already, but you're just going to see more and more of it.
Why is there a reason why it can't be put on the roof?
On the top
Right.
of the house.
Yeah, great question. You know, it could. The homeowner does not want it there. For one, it is facing east and west, so the variables are different as far as what we can produce. We want to put this on the ground and face it directly south because we produce more photovoltaic energy that way. So economically, it makes more sense. Secondly, we're not putting holes in the roof. Thirdly, if they ever need a new roof, we don't want a roofer touching our product because it's going to void our 25-year warranty. Solar's here. It's no secret. I mean, it's on school signs. It's on MoDOT signs. It's on space travel.
But could it go on any of those other structures besides the house?
So there is that little shed that maybe faces south and then the garage as well. Again, we are taken away from what we can produce. We're not really getting the biggest bang for our buck when we do that. If our hands are tied, with this, I would go back to the customer and say, hey, this is our only play. We really don't want to do that just because of how much more sense it makes to put this on the ground because there's plenty of property to do it with.
I view this.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I view this less of a solar issue, more of a space issue. And they elected to go over that with the pool, so the compromise might have to be that they put it on their roof.
What percentage of, and I'm just curious more than anything, because most of these solar panels I'm seeing in the residential arena are on the roof. What percentage of your installs with your company are on the roof versus on the ground?
I would I would say probably 60-40, 60 in favor on the ground.
Really?
Yeah, we'd rather put it on the ground if we can. If we put it on the roof, there's a reason why we're doing that, because maybe we just don't have anywhere to put it on the ground, or there's too many trees, or we're not getting enough photovoltaic energy to hit the numbers that we have to hit. We get in the city, we get into communities, yes, we go on the roof, whether it's commercial or flat roofs. I would say, a good 60-40 on the ground is what we see. If we have the, it's just more of the, it's more cost effective for us and the homeowner as well, to be able to put these on the ground and not worrying about any kind of roof replacement or anything that might have to be done in the future with that. There's pros and cons, I should say. If you put it on the roof, it does act kind of like another layer of insulation.
Right.
For hots and colds, retain better in the house.
But with the egg on our face, adding more stuff on the ground.
Well, and
makes us
everybody,
look even,
yeah.
And it's not you. And he should be here to tell us why this barn is here and why that, and maybe he could knock that down. I mean, he didn't get the permits. I mean, he's in violation.
So he is held responsible for that, and I'm not sure what.
But that's what we're
discipline
here for,
has been
correct?
taken for that,
zoning,
but
not for panels on a house.
But you do have options.
You do have options.
You could put it someplace else. Is that right?
Yeah, no, there is. This is what the customer wants, so I'm always mindful of what they're
There's a
looking for.
swimming pool and a couple big buildings too.
Yeah, he did.
Question for staff, and I was going to ask this anyway, but the applicant brought it up, and it's a good point. Do we have in our and I don't recall, in our definition of structural accessory structures, do we have it specifically pointed out that
What is a structure?
yeah, and what is a solar panel listed, I guess, is my question.
The solar panel is not specifically listed in the definition for a structure. However, it talks about anything constructed or erected, the use of which requires permanent location on the ground or attachment to something having a permanent location on the ground, but not including fences or public items such as utility poles, street light fixtures, and street signs. So because it's made up of multiple parts affixed to the ground and it doesn't fall under those exempted out in this definition, our department has always considered it a structure and therefore must comply.
Well, in our next update, I think we may want to, because I think we are going to see a lot more of this, and I think we do maybe need to either have a discussion, either list it in there or say, yeah, this is okay and this is not, because I do think we're probably going to see a lot more of this.
I hope so.
I'm sure you do.
Well, and to your point, I think it's something from a structure that would be easily removed. That wouldn't cause any. But then again, I mean, those are all hypotheticals. So.
Mr. Van Paris?
Chairman, if I could interject, apologize, but just as you'll soon be asked to review the comprehensive plan based upon an upcoming work session conducted by the Board of County Commissioners, the Board of County Commissioners has asked your planning staff to review both wind and solar energy and how they would integrate into your planning and zoning regulations. That work has not been completed due to some staffing issues, but it is anticipated that you will be dealing with that issue in the future. And obviously, the concern would be, will the addition of any solar structures, and it is a structure, count against the 2.5%?
Yeah, with the county, we just approved in the last, 5 or 6 months, it's a special use permit out on Tonganoxie Road or Highway 5, yeah.
So the electric cooperative.
Right. Yeah. So, point is, and what you brought up is that we're going to see this a lot. So.
Yeah, power isn't necessary. I mean, it's something that we're always going to need, whether it's geothermal, whether it's solar, whether it's wind, whether it's coal. And this is not me being political or going down a political rabbit hole, so I'll stay away from that. But we all can agree that we all have to breathe the same air. those coal guys aren't going back to work again. It's not like the 1670s or 1980s, and they're all dying at the age of 50 because they have black lung.
Hey, my dad's a coal miner, 86 years old. So.
Bless his heart. Thanks for his service.
Yeah.
I mean, we need all entities is what I'm getting at. There was a slap in our face, 9 months ago, what happened to Texas and the whole rolling blowout, blackouts. We had customers in Houston that had a storage solution in a lithium-ion battery where they had power. Their pipes weren't freezing. They might have had to go in their house and push the snow off the panels. But heck yeah, I'm going to do that to save my house. As a CPAC, you want to keep that running. Any kind of electric, medical device. I don't see how this is going to stop, or you will see more of this. I mean, California has mandated it. Every house has to have solar on it now. Every new house.
And we agree. I just think there's entirely too much violation of the 2.6, personally. But if we're here just for zoning and not anything else.
And not allowing this, we've already established, doesn't mean they can't put it. They should put it on the roof.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And
we're already violating that law, so.
Yeah.
Well, we should stop it here instead of continuing it. I mean, why would we add to the law violation?
Yeah.
Correct?
Well, then it should have never been.
It shouldn't have, but I'm new.
Yeah.
He's new. I mean, it has to start somewhere, and I think maybe setting the precedence of this might be a good start.
Well, what do we do when the next 50 homeowners that are already crunched on their piece of property, and they come to us and say, hey, we want to go solar, and we denied this guy here. I think we're already getting sued by a gravel company for something, the county. I mean, where does... We tell him no, and then the next guy comes along and says, or 10 people in the neighborhood say, hey, we want to put solar in right out here in Fairmont. And we're like, oh, man, you guys are just too much over. We're going to have to say no. I mean, where are we going to...
tell him he can't put solar at all. He has, I see 1, 2, 3, 4... Structures already there.
Well,
it's not optimal, and I mean, honestly.
We see structures that... I'm not a solar expert, but I know how the sun works, and it does have a certain flow that I noticed the new one they put out there on Tongi Road, they didn't face them all putting northwest.
Correct,
the solar's got to work a certain way to be 100% efficient. And I'm sure you could stick it somewhere else where it was 50% efficient, but is that the best place for it where it's going to work the best? That's my question.
Short answer is no, it won't work as well. The savings, the ROI, a lot of things push out. There's a lot of factors there. Putting this on the ground makes us more optimal, more, advantageous to produce more power. Basically.
I mean, because what if the resident straight to the top there, if he wants to put a solar panel somewhere on his property, because he looks like he's probably already pushing the limit too on being overbuilt.
I believe he has.
Or the one straight to the right of him, I would say he's pushing pretty close to being overbuilt on his property with that big house and that outbuilding, just that little sliver of dirt in the back. So, I mean...
Commissioner Owens, to answer your question, staff would always recommend you look at the 5 factors that state statute requires you to consider when reviewing a variance for every single case. You look at them for every single case. It might be a little different from case to case, but staff's recommendation is you look at those 5 factors and you make your determination based off that.
Yeah, and I'm always one to, I don't like the, and council may disagree with me on this, but I don't really like the term or the thought process of setting a precedent personally, because I think we have to look at each individual case on its own merit, and there are no 2 cases that are very rarely going to be the same. So that's just my opinion on it. Mr. Van Paris, do you have?
No, each case has its own unique characteristics, and you should not believe that you're setting a precedent by making a determination in any specific case.
And good, better, best means it can still be put on any of those structures, correct? Without...
Yeah. There are options. So, We'll go ahead and continue on. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor or opposition to this request? I think so. Any additional information to be presented by staff?
No, sir.
Okay, the public comment portion of this public hearing is now closed. We've had a lot of good discussion. Thank you, sir. Is there any other questions or comments or things we need to hash out?
North-south is up and down on this map, right? South's the bottom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
No roof line faces north.
It's sun in the south.
Josh, could you go ahead and bring up the golden factors?
For variances, there are no golden factors.
There are.
I can bring up
Okay.
the section, the factors to be considered.
I thought they were golden.
They are golden for SUPs and rezonings. For variances, again, different statute. Different statutes, different requirements.
And as staff pointed out earlier, I mean, this is our guide. This is what we have to go by. On any of these that we look at, this is our guidance right here. So unless anybody else has any other discussion, I'm ready for a motion. And you, in your motion, if you can just briefly go down points A through E on there.
You wait for, I'll make the motion. I want to pass it. I don't think it's going to affect the value of the people next to him. I don't see 30 neighbors over here going, hey, I don't want them solar panels in his backyard. Those are going to negatively affect my property. I don't see solar as a negative effect on anybody's property. I get he's already over his 2.5 limit at the fault of the county.
I wouldn't say the fault of the county.
Well, the fault of planning and zoning, whoever didn't miss the paperwork somewhere. I'm a contractor. I fill out paperwork every day for variances, for decks, for buildings. They're up my rear on this number, that number. Where's this going? I just don't see solar as a negative effect on the neighborhood. So I'm going to say I'm for granting this this to go on and continue the way it is.
I don't think we're talking about
not
the
talking about
quality of
solar.
solar.
It's the amount of property that's being.
Right.
I mean,
We're talking about 14 more foot of solar panels
14
by
feet
5
here,
foot.
14 feet there. Hey,
Pretty soon
I got
we're
a
talking
barn
about-
here. I got a swimming pool here, and I got away with it. Let's just keep going. We were just told we had egg on our face.
And there are options.
Come on.
You
I mean,
can
no
still put
offense.
the
I mean, those
solar
were
in.
words you used. So, I mean, so it's not solar. That's not what. I mean, we're zoning. I'm president of Leavenworth County Development Corporation. Love to give them money to bring the solar here. But that has nothing to do with zoning. Because you can put the solar on the houses. On the
For me, that's
structures.
the big factor in this is that he has other options and
He
can
does
still
have
get the
options.
solar.
Right.
That's right.
Right. This isn't stopping this business owner from coming in and putting solar in there.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
To be clear, we will need a clarification on all 5 factors for it to be approved.
That's you, Robert.
Okay. Well,
So just basically just go down the list and just.
okay. Is it gonna affect the rights of the property owners and the residents around him? I don't see that because I think 5 more of the property owners are already already over their land usage too. I mean, I'd have to get a calculator out and a GIS map and figure it up real quick, but I'm sure there's at least 3 or 4 more right there that are overbuilt on their property as well. So is it going to affect the property? I don't see that happening. Now, I get it. We're up here to say, hey, this is black and white, and this is what we wrote. Well, I didn't write that. I'm brand new. There's all kinds of things the planning and zoning's done that I don't agree with at all. I don't even know how some of it passed. But I think we're just grasping at a needle in a haystack here. I think we're going to have 50 more of these cases before us in the next year or two, and are we going to say no to everyone because, they wanted the pool for their kids to swim in. Oh my gosh, the guy can't have a pool. Or he wanted a shed to keep his new truck and his tractor and his lawn equipment in. So, I mean...
To reiterate what the county counselor has already indicated is that there is already plans to look at the language and the zoning regulations pertaining to these types of uses. If you are saying that you do not agree with the language, that would be something to consider. As of tonight, you are tied to those 5 factors up there, and you have to state how this request meets those 5 factors, even if you don't agree with the zoning regulations as they are currently written.
Okay, how it agrees with them? Well, it probably don't agree with any of the things. I don't see it. This request will constitute unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented. Okay, so here's my question. How much more money are we talking putting it on the ground versus putting it on the roof?
Commissioner, financial hardship is not an unnecessary hardship.
Okay, so now we're talking money don't really count anymore. So money's not an object.
Not for
Okay,
variances.
so when money don't matter is what we're saying. I need to scroll down. Go down to what's after C.
Condition, so A would be the first condition, first factor that you need to consider.
Same zoning is included by the zoning. Well, I would say this is a very unique request because the property owner's already over what we said he could have. I mean, to no fault. I mean, I don't know if the gentleman deliberately tried to deceive planning and zoning, but I don't. I mean, I get the black and white here. I just don't see that.
I think in order to vote, he just needs to confirm that he thinks this meets those 5 criteria and read them line by line.
Correct. Commissioner Bailey is correct.
Well, it is obviously they're outside of their deal. I mean, if we're going to, I will have to agree. Yes, they're outside their 2.5 coverage. So I guess on that fact, I can't stand for it. But I'm just saying, we're going to see this over and over again. We're going to be beating our heads up here going, I get it. Describe to me why you think it's wrong, but...
I don't think right now we're truly debating that. If you want to vote to approve it, I think A through E, you just have to read those and say, yes, I think it meets that. Yes, I think it meets that. And then we can vote on it.
No, it don't meet it. I mean, they're over on their property, but I don't agree with our wording on this whole deal on these. So
that's fair.
Let me ask real quick. What's our timeline on looking at this at the county commissioner, our level 2, as far as the solar? Do we have one?
We have adopted solar. For commercial grade solar, we've already adopted some, regulations to that effect. As to the rest of it,
Commissioners, I know you've spent a great deal of time on this topic this evening, and it's been a worthwhile discussion. You're not required to make the decision this evening. you wanted to table it until such time as additional regulations were formulated, you could do so. But I'd have to state that you might be tabling it for 6 to 8 months.
That's why
And
I
that would
asked.
take away the opportunity to start the project.
Yeah, and that's why I asked the question is what our timeline was if we're talking about in the next couple of months, which I know would be very optimistic because things tend not to move that quickly. But I'm just throwing it out there as an option. I don't know what your client's timeline is on this. I'm sure they're ready to roll.
We're about 16 weeks on production, so we've had to kind of put him on the back burner as we're advancing the project. But we would expedite his project on his behalf because of that. If I'm still allowed to speak, I didn't know.
Can it be moved once it's on the roof, or is that just?
Sir, go ahead and come back up so we can get you.
I mean, it's not even a solar issue. I hate to say it.
No, I get it. I get that part, but
my only point with that, Amy, and you're right, I agree with you, is that if we were to look at this as the county and we made a determination, I'm saying there's a lot of ifs here. If we said solar panels do not count towards it as an accessory building, then it's a moot point.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. And I don't know if any of that would happen, but if it could happen, then he's good to go.
Yeah, we'd always be thankful to entertain the idea, even if this was tabled, to maybe wait or just stay contingent until the language is maybe a little bit clearer on it. I want to meet you guys halfway with this. I mean, how can we advance this?
Put it on the roof.
I don't know what you consider necessary. For me, my passion is that we have to do this. Is that we have to do this. Not because of us. And I don't know if you have kids or family. It's just smarter energy, and it's just a better solution, and it's creating millions of jobs. So I don't see how this, again, could be any kind of negative effect on the community.
Well, I don't think anyone's arguing that.
Right.
That part.
Right.
And I just want to
context, if you have a daughter that has diabetes and you need insulin, but you're not allowed to have insulin on that property, I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to be that extreme about it, but
that's a little extreme.
Well, I think this is a serious issue.
Saying they can't have
this is a serious thing.
I agree with it 100%.
We're just saying they have to have it on the roof.
3 places that we saw as zoning, our job, zoning, not solar.
We're talking metrics.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the
well, in
size?
25 years, either it's a $20,000 versus a $10,000 ROI because of the positioning. Like if it's your house, you're going to say, "Oh, I want to do it this way because I'm going to save a lot more money. I got a faster return on my investment. It's a no-brainer. I'm going to put it here because I'm getting more bang for my buck. The panel is producing a lot more." Some projects don't get approved. Not everybody can go solar. Some people are around national forest, or you got to do $10,000 worth of tree work just to maybe.
Well, there would be a lot of investments that would be illegal that you get a high ROI on, but you don't do them because they're against the statutes.
What's the square footage of the array when it's installed? Surface area, 750. It's about what I figured. Just
by 14.
We're 15 foot by.
Swimming pool. Why do you have?
According to what I worked out based off of the schematic provided, it looked like 747.46.
750. Okay,
750.
close enough for government work.
That's right.
750 square feet of array on a lot that's 64,000 square feet in size. And I don't know what the coverage of the structures that are on the lot now is talking about. We're talking about 750 square feet. Now,
that would be a 1.1% addition to the
1.1.
lot
Yeah, 1.18. But that's University of Kentucky ciphering here. I got my shoes off.
I think that's a valid point.
Kansas.
I think that might be different to discuss maybe
increasing the limit. At some point here you reach
limit.
diminishing returns, but I agree with Amy's point. 750 square foot array. The array doesn't all have to be in one place. You're going to lose some of your power production if you run lines instead of just a single line. it needs to be facing south because that's where the sun is most of the time. You could do that on the roof, or you could say, as Robert says, you know, what the hell, it ain't hurting anybody. It's sitting on his lot. It's 750 square feet. And that's what the issue is here tonight. Are we going to pole vault over 750 square feet?
For something that's good for our community. If he wanted to put up another barn, or he wanted to put up a giant pool house out there with an outdoor bathroom, I'd say absolutely not. You're already over. You should have planned all that when you built your pool. But we're sitting here talking about solar energy, and we're talking 1% over. I mean, 1% is where we're at here. We're arguing over 1%.
1.1 plus 2.6 is 3.7. What other, we don't know how much more violation past that 2.6 we're at.
It's 1% of his property, but it's 50% violation.
Yeah. You see? I mean, it's not personal. This isn't personal. It's not. It's a zoning issue, correct? No?
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
I mean, that's.
Are we? Could we make
It's
another
personal
motion?
to me.
Well, we've got a motion on the floor, and so I think we need to, unless it's rescinded, I think we need to vote on that motion.
Second?
We have a second. We have a motion and a second.
They just
on
have to
the floor.
read through A through E.
Yeah, I mean, or basically, Mr. Van Paris, I don't know. I mean,
Commissioners,
Robert has gone
perhaps
through.
to expedite your decision on this matter one way or the other, unless you wish to table it, if Commissioner Owens would just state, I find the application meets the criteria and set forth through A through E.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, repeat that, what he just said.
Yeah, repeat that.
That the application meets the regards A through E? I mean,
That crosses the bar.
There we go.
okay.
Now we can vote.
Then I'll say that. Yes, it meets. There we go.
Okay. And Commissioner Dials, you're still good with that?
My second stands.
Okay. Any other further discussion? I don't think we can have much more, but if there is something new, I'm willing to listen to it. Okay, roll call vote. And remember, this is a final decision. It does not go to the Board of County Commissioners. Amy Baker?
No.
And your vote would be yes to approve, just so we're all clear, and no to deny.
No.
And reason?
Everything that I stated, that I just do not believe this is a solar issue. I feel that they're already in violation of more than like 50% of a violation that our job is zoning. So that is I'll just stand on the no on that.
Okay. Alan Stewart?
No.
Reason?
No, we're already exceeding the limits, and now we're adding to it, and there are other options. We're not voting against solar power. We're voting against where they want to put the solar power.
Jaden Bailey?
No, and C and A through E, the strict application of the zoning regulations doesn't lead to an unnecessary hardship, as there are other options.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Tom Dials?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
3-3, so I guess that means I get the vote, huh? I'm all for solar, big proponent of it. I just think in this particular case there are other options, namely the roof, and so I'm going to vote no. So the motion fails 4-3.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Anything
Happy to
else?
talk to you guys about solar off the record.
Anything else from staff?
I think DVP has already mentioned this, but just be aware that conversations around the comprehensive plan are on your immediate agenda, most likely going to be in December, and then also potentially a special meeting.
So we'll have a work session on it prior to our meeting where we would vote on that?
Don't know how exactly it's going to look. Just anticipate by December you guys will be discussing the comprehensive plan again.
And the work session, the public is invited, correct?
I believe
Commissioner, there would be an open meeting under Kansas law, but it would not necessarily be a public hearing.
Okay, but the public could come and,
They can attend, they
Yeah.
just can't
Right.
talk unless
Right.
somebody asks them to talk.
correct.
Is this something that happens during normal business hours or in the evenings, such as this? Or
We would probably try, and if it's a study session, we usually try to have those before your meeting, your regularly scheduled meeting, unless you guys choose to choose a different special meeting date,
Okay.
which are outlined in your bylaws, so on how to do that.
I just asked them due to personal schedules. So,
Mhm.
yep.
All right, anything else? We're adjourned. Thank you.